All right, House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 4. Welcome back to the Friends We Made podcast. I'm Court. This is Tim. We just talk about TV shows that we like. So if you are interested, like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell so you'll be notified whenever we post new videos about the different shows that we're watching. So, Tim, Season 1, Episode 4. What were your general impressions of the episode?
I didn't take away nearly as much as I did from the last episode. The last episode was kind of the high point so far, I feel like, and I was positive, very positive going into this next one, and it was more of they kind of pulled back from the action and from the actual things happening, and it was much more of a vocal episode, and it was good. I liked by the end of it, I had enjoyed it, but it was definitely not nothing stood out like in the last episode where they had quite a few moments that stood out.
Interesting, because I would say, as I was watching the episode, I was thinking, this is very uncomfortable as a viewing experience for large portions of it. Yeah. But when the episode was over, I actually really liked the episode as a whole. I liked the dialogue. I liked the storytelling. And to me, it really gets back to when like Game of Thrones is the best. Obviously, I love the battle scenes. Things like the battle for the wall. That's an amazing episode. You can watch that in a movie theater. It's so good. But I feel like the backbone of Game of Thrones is the dialogue, the relationships, and just the moving of the chess pieces around the board. And I felt like this was an episode that was heavy on that. So to get into the specifics of the episode, we start off with the first scene. We have Rhaenyra. This is about a year after the last episode ended, where Viserys told her that she had to get married, but she could pick her suitor. And the episode starts off with her at Storm's End, which is the castle of the Baratheons. That is, Robert Baratheon was the Lord of Storm's End before his rebellion, and he became the king of the Seven Kingdoms. So we see this long line of suitors, young and old. None of them the kind of person I would expect an 18-year-old girl to want to marry, all giving them the reasons why she should choose them. So what were your thoughts on that scene?
Yeah, I mean, it took me back to the Aladdin days. I expected Prince Ali to come in afterwards, try to save the day. It was very much.
It's funny you said that because I was going to make an Aladdin reference later.
I mean, that's what I kind of gathered from it. And, it was.
I didn't think of that.
I mean, that's what it reminded me of. Just, everybody's just
your bill and prepare to gawk and gravel and stare.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it's to be expected in these types of situations, but I mean, everybody, walks up talking about what they're bringing to the table, like, and nobody's there talking about her. And in a normal relationship, it's all about, how much I care about you and how much you mean to me. So it just makes it a very awkward situation where it's almost impossible for you. And I've never seen a story yet where that's why it reminded me of Aladdin, because you don't see those stories where the girls are flattered and happy to get that kind of treatment, everybody walking up and boasting, and everybody walking up telling you, like, what I'm going to do for you and how much it'll benefit you to join my house. Like, that's not what the ladies want to hear.
Damn, I'm going to take some notes. So that's what I'm doing wrong on first dates. I should ask questions about them. I don't just have to tell them what I bring to the table. It's okay. Now I got it. This is going to be life changing for me, maybe potentially. But anyway, more seriously on this scene, though, the way I'm seeing this is, I don't think that this season is wasting scenes because we're skipping around a lot from time period to time period, year to year. So I think the things that they're showing us are important. And I think that we can surmise, and it wouldn't be a spoiler to say at this point, that the central conflict of the story is going to be at some point Viserys is going to die, and it's going to be who takes over as ruler after he's gone. Especially considering that we know that the story is going to jump forward, I believe, at least 20 years into the future. So, and it seems, obviously, with the play that we see later in the episode, they're setting up that it's going to be a battle between Rhaenyra and one of her siblings. Yeah, she has a brother now. I assume 20 years from now, she will have multiple siblings. And in a civil war, it's all about your alliances. And in that scene, what I saw was a bunch of men coming up to tell her why she should be with them. And she's basically just straight up disrespecting them to their face. And everyone in the room's laughing at them. Like, oh, you think a Targaryen is going to marry this guy? Get out of here. Like, no, it's not going to happen. But I think we can anticipate in 20 years when she's sending out her people to these other houses, asking them to rally to her side, we're going to see some of these guys saying, oh, yeah, I remember her. She's the one who made fun of me when I wanted to marry her 20 years ago. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with her brother or something like that.
Yeah, no, especially that young guy. As soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, yeah, he's going to be – because like you said, I mean, they're not wasting scenes. As soon as you see somebody younger who's kind of a standout in a scene, you're going to think, okay, when it shows up 15, 20 years from now, this is going to be a grown man, and whatever happens right now is going to be important. And then sure enough, he gets in a fight and kills somebody.
And honestly, those two houses, even in the Game of Thrones books, they're alluded to that they are still feuding with each other. And I thought that was interesting. You see how like a feud that lasts for literally centuries and probably costs like dozens, if not hundreds of young men's their life, starts off with someone making a stupid joke and someone taking offense. Now these two families hate each other for all of eternity.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, that was an interesting scene. I think that we're going to see some of that come back. Some of those people, like you said, I think certainly that young man is going to be important. I was thinking maybe the old guy too, but he's already pretty old. Who knows if he'll make it?
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, if he is, he won't be. I mean, again, just a voice. But I mean, yeah, the young guy was definitely there. He was put there for a reason.
And this has been going on for months. She's done this at other castles throughout the different Seven Kingdoms. So, like, I feel like she has potentially made some enemies, and she's oblivious to it. She doesn't even realize it because
she's not even aware that game exists. Really, like for all that she's like smart and intelligent, she's not playing the Game of Thrones. Yeah,
she's too sheltered.
She doesn't even know about the Game of Thrones. As far as she's concerned, there is no game.
Right.
I don't think she's
it's me. Yeah, you got. They swore fealty to me. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
So then we go to the next scene. Daemon is returning. And the time framing on that just seemed weird to me. Like it's been a year since the end of the last episode, but he's only coming back for the first time now. You know, that's like, okay, they just want to set that up for the same time that Rhaenyra is coming back. And that was a good scene. You see, I just love his swagger. Like he walks in there wearing a crown.
Yeah.
It's just like this guy does not care. But then he bows to a knee, he submits the crown to his brother. And it's obvious that's all Viserys wants. Like Viserys is not about conflict. He wants his brother there. Like everyone's just waiting for him to deflate all the tension in the room. And I did like that scene, even though I was thinking the timing of this seems to be way off to me.
Yeah, see, at that point, I don't know if I missed them saying it, but I didn't realize how long it had been. It took me a little longer in this episode to realize it'd been a year. You know, they did a good job so far with either a baby's being born or saying it. Like in the second episode, they just came out and said it. I feel like they're taking, like I even said something about how they were kind of giving us baby steps and kind of walking us through it. They're taking that away as they go. And at that point, I didn't realize it'd been a year, but I was definitely like already like it's weird that they would be showing up at the same time. But the fact that, you know, and something did later say something about it had been a year, so that's definitely more than a coincidence. And I mean, again, the fact that they have to wrap up a year before and probably 3 to 5 years after all in one episode, you're going to see stuff like that. And I'll forgive them. You know, it's understandable. Right. You know, it's either that or they just miss a bunch of big moments and just talk about it, which would be way worse. So,
absolutely. And I know some people don't like to watch on the next episode of because they feel like it gives things away. To me, I don't really care because I don't think it gives anything away. I think those are edited very cleverly to like lead you to wrong conclusions. So whatever you think is going to happen is not necessarily what's going to happen. But where you can have an idea what's going to happen in the episode is what they choose to show in the recap from the previous episodes. And the recap from the and in this one, it was a lot of scenes with Daemon and Rhaenyra. So I knew that they were building up to that. You know, they were like, oh, yeah, in case you didn't realize it, we've been hitting this all season. So this episode is going to be heavy on that. So we do get a scene with Rhaenyra and Alicent after like the party to welcome back Daemon. There seems like they've kind of made up to an extent. They're friendly again. And I think Rhaenyra kind of understands Alicent maybe not necessarily wanting to be in that situation. And it's that whole theme of it sucks to be a woman in this world, even when you're in their position. Like, you know, it's way better to be them than someone born in Flea Bottom. But at the same time, Rhaenyra's 18 years old and she's married away to this man who's twice her age. And her whole life is taking care of her babies and waiting on him to come make some new babies with her and then being pregnant again. Like that's it. There's not a lot of happiness there for that. And I think Rhaenyra, to an extent, has some sympathy for that, and it also lets her know that that's not what she wants for her life.
Yeah, and they go into a little bit later with how much the Queen's enjoying her station. It's a pretty awkward scene down the road. But yeah, that's something that I feel like she's definitely aware of is coming for her, and that's one of the reasons she just shunned all her suitors because she's not interested in that. I can't really blame her.
Of course not. And so then we get to the next scene, and this is where I had my Aladdin reference, where Damon leaves the clothes for her and the map, and she sneaks out. And to me, I was getting real heavy Princess Jasmine vibes, walking around the city, no guards, the young princess. She never gets to experience this type of life. So, like, she's very, this is very exciting for her. But this is where I was super uncomfortable with the episode because it's like, one, it's her uncle, and two, the age difference makes it. I think he's in his early 30s and she's in her late teens. And it's not as much the difference in years, it's the amount of life experience. I think if a man in his 40s were to date a woman in her late 20s, that would be much more acceptable and appropriate. But she has no life experience. She's probably never been out in the city like this. And Damon is clearly interested in her. And like the whole thing, it was just like, this is just so creepy and incestual. And that's where I had like the uncomfortable feelings the whole time.
Well, that whole scene it kind of pulled you in a few directions. Cause that definitely gave me my second Aladdin vibes of the episode. But then he takes her to like the show. And I thought that was weird that he would take her to that show. The actors, the play, I should say. But that was just weird because it seemed like he was almost like, I was thinking, did he take her out just for this? Just so she could see what people are thinking. And then he turns the tables again and takes her to the other show. And it's like, his intentions were just kind of all jumbled in there. It's hard to see, again, if he was trying to swoon her, he had a very weird sideways way of getting to it, and I don't think that was, I don't know what his intentions were. Because then when he finally did that, then he left as soon as it kind of started. So it was almost like he didn't know what his intentions were.
That's what I was thinking.
It seemed very unplanned, which is kind of realistic. Like he just wanted to get around, didn't know what he was going to do, but it was awkwardly staged for a show, especially for a show that's trying to knock out a year's worth of information in one episode.
I think he knows he knows what he wants, but he knows that he shouldn't. And he knows like the potential negative consequences for everyone involved. And he took it many, many, many steps too far, but he didn't take it all the way to the final step. Like he got all the way to the edge and he was like, what am I doing? Also, I don't think you should just leave the princess alone in a brothel. Like anything happens to her, it's going to be a head on a pike.
Yeah, the next day when she's saying like he went from tavern to tavern and all that, I don't know if I missed that, but it kind of seems like that is what happened. But they didn't really show that part of it. Or maybe it didn't happen and she was just lying when she was explaining it. But again, the whole thing just seemed I felt like I was missing something. I felt like it was kind of a little confusing, to be honest. I don't know.
The part of that scene that I think was done best is you get the juxtaposition of her out having the time of her life, and then Allison at home, with the crying baby, and then she's like giving her husband a bath, and then she's waiting in bed, and then they like, oh, the king wants to see you, and they're like, she's like, it's late. I'm like, yeah, we know. What do you think he wants to see you for?
Yeah, no, I love that. The lady's like, yeah, like the king. I said, the king. Well, I'm not. I just do what I'm told. Get back, get in there. That lady had no idea.
And so, one, you see that Viserys is still falling apart. He looks freaking disgusting. Like his whole body is just being eaten alive by that throne. Like the visual representation that he's unfit for the Iron Throne is so clear. And I like the fact that he's unfit for the throne, but it's not like Daenerys' brother Viserys, where he's just an evil, psychopathic, manipulative jerk. Like Viserys seems to be like a good guy. Like he loves his family, he loves his brother, he loves his daughter. He he's nice to his wife. Like we've never seen Viserys be mean or cruel to anyone just for the sake of it. If anything, he wants to please people too much. But that alone doesn't make you a good king. Just because you're unfit for the crown doesn't mean you're a psychopath. And I like the way they're doing that. But we get the juxtaposition of Daemon telling Rhaenyra that a woman can enjoy sex too, and then we get the scene of Allison with the king, and it's like, she's not enjoying anything that's going on in her life right now.
No.
So that was really interesting. And then she goes back, and we get the scene of her and Christian Cole. And the thing that I liked about that scene is they make it so clear his hesitation. He knows he shouldn't be doing that. He knows that it could potentially cost him his life, but he just can't say no.
No, and I have a feeling it will cost him greatly in one way or the other, probably sooner than later.
Right.
Because also, just with like I said, with the confusion in general, she seems like she was fully like it wasn't just out of spite. She wasn't trying to just do it to get back at Damon or anything. She really wanted it. It seemed.
Oh yeah.
But she also wanted, her uncle. So I don't know. It just the whole thing was just like again, kind of realistic, where it was like you've been out on a night before and had some drinks and been to a brothel or two, and then just things lead to another.
We've all been there.
Yeah. So
with Christian Cole is like that scene was not as disturbing because one, they're way closer in age. I would imagine that like she's like 18 and he's like maybe 23, 24 at the oldest.
It wasn't disturbing at all. I feel like that, and it was you could see it coming. With the whole boar hunt with them and her choosing him, and
right.
I mean,
and he's very handsome.
Her dreamy looks, and like they were just. Yeah, I wasn't surprised at all. I was kind of waiting for that moment.
Yes, to attract the people. It just makes sense. Yeah. And so then we get the scene where we get the spy from the brothel who goes to Hightower and tells him what happened. And then the Hightower runs to the king. And there's that one point where he's like, oh, I hate doing this. It's like, no, you don't. You love doing this.
Yeah, no, that's what he exists for.
But I was thinking to myself, this is a mistake.
Oh, yeah.
like I almost feel like he was baited into that. Like, you do not tell the king about that shit.
I mean, especially with, he didn't have hard evidence by any means.
Was that?
Like, he didn't have any hard evidence at all because, I mean, it was wrong. First off, it was wrong. Second off, he wouldn't even give him the witness. Like, I mean, he was asking for trouble. And he's seen how protective the king is of his family in general. Like, I don't know. And he's supposed to know the king better than anyone. Like,
yeah, I was watching that whole scene play out, and I was like, what man is going to take this news well, even if it were true, even if he did believe you? Like, this is an example where the messenger is going to get killed.
Yeah, and he knows that she's already walking on a razor's edge as far as becoming the next heir as a female, and he knows the uphill battle. And, I mean, I feel like he handled it with her even pretty well. He's like, it doesn't matter whether you did it. You put yourself in that position. But
right.
He had to know that was Hightower should have known that was going to be his reaction. Like, that whether or not it's true, shoot, like you said, shoot the messenger and try to hold her accountable. But, like, he's not going to punish her and, name a new heir because of what Hightower's spy knows or does not know.
And I feel like the only character who hasn't really been developed very well is Hightower. But I also kind of feel like maybe Hightower, he doesn't love his daughter to the way that Viserys loves his daughter. Like, he sees his families as pieces to his own ambitions. So maybe he doesn't quite realize the way that Viserys is going to take the news, because if he got that news about his daughter, his first thoughts would probably be how he's going to manipulate that to the advantage of himself or his family.
He did seem shocked. Like, he seemed genuinely shocked about the whole way it was handled. But again, I mean, as much as he knows the king, you would think he knew better. But yeah, I mean, I guess he doesn't understand the way other people are with their family. But again, I mean, I feel like the king has been, to this point, that's the only time you've really seen any real strong emotion out of him, is whether it was about his child who died, his wife before she died, his daughter. Like, I mean, he's very protective of his family. And
right.
I don't know what Hightower expected to happen. Like, even the best case scenario out of that, what would it have been? Like, I named someone. Right. He wanted one of his grandsons, obviously, to be named heir. So, I mean, I guess that is pretty big. But at the same time, like.
So then he talks to her about it. And I like that scene. I didn't like it that he said the blade literally says that is going to pass to the prince who was promised, because that even more shows me that it should have been Jon Snow to kill the Night King and not Arya. Like, how fucking botched that was by the writers of the show. It's like, how was Arya the prince that was promised? Like, that's not what's going on here. That's not what was set up. It was dumb. I digress. I like the conversation that he had with Rhaenyra, like you said, he told her it doesn't matter. You there's bigger things to be worried about. But she's right. Like if she was a boy, it would not matter at all. Like the young boys do the exact same thing. Even Daemon said the same thing when he was bought before Viserys. Like we were doing the exact same thing when we were that age.
But it is different, and I feel like that's what the show is about. You know, it's about the fact that, or not, you know, not all it's about, but it's an uphill battle for her. You know, it's going to be harder. You can't do the same things. Like you've got to be on your game 110%, and you still might lose.
Right.
You know, that's kind of the whole idea, is that even if you do your best, there's a good chance you're not going to win this. So if you give them any reason or any room to, you know, slip in the dagger,
advantage.
That's it. Yeah. So, and I mean, he's right. He really is. Because again, if she didn't do that, she's still at a disadvantage. So, I mean, she really has to play the game, and she's not playing the game. She doesn't want to play the game. She's too stubborn for the game. And like you said, in 20 years, she's going to have a very shallow pool of allies. You know, she got some dragons, which is pretty nice. But
so does the other side.
Yeah.
So I do like that she pressed the advantage. Like, I'll marry whoever you tell me to, but you got to get rid of Otto Hightower. And the scene with Viserys and Otto was kind of weird because it was almost like Viserys was accusing him of murdering his father. Like he's had this suspicion before about Otto.
Yeah, that was
weird. Where have we seen that? Like when she brought it up for the first time to him, that was the first time that it seemed like that he ever really considered the fact that that Otto's naked ambition was a problem.
Yeah, I mean we've been talking about him since the beginning, how it's just been a weird dynamic, and King kind of trusts him too much, and so for this episode, for him not to understand the King, and the King to take the very first hint that he's not to be trusted and run with it, it just seems like their whole relationship is just not fleshed out right, or there's a lot missing that we're just not going to get to know about because they were too close and then they turned too quickly, you know, and both of them did it, so it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
And it's like the King for the first time realizes that Otto purposely sent his daughter to comfort him so that he would marry her. Like you should have thought that immediately when you were having thoughts of getting married to her. That like, wait a minute, why is this young girl interested in me all of a sudden? Why is my daughter's best friend, who I've never had a real conversation with, coming to my room at night now? Like, those should have been thoughts that you had a long time ago. And I'm wondering, like, what is Alicent's thoughts on all of this? You know, like, she's clearly savvy. She's clearly better at playing the game than Rhaenyra is. But she doesn't seem to me that she has that Marjorie Tyrell ambition where Marjorie just wanted to be queen. Didn't matter if it was Joffrey. Didn't matter if it was Renly. Didn't matter if it was Tommen. Like, Marjorie just wanted to be the queen. I don't really see that from Alicent.
She doesn't really have any tools. I feel like even like, that's something the Game of Thrones did well, is people used each other so well. And, you know, you wouldn't know who was using who and who had the upper hand. But in this, it's almost like everybody we're talking about, even her and her father, Hightower, they're kind of playing their own game, you know? And like the King's definitely playing his own game. He's not with Hightower or his daughter. Like everybody's playing their own thing and nobody's really, I don't know, I guess because I mean, maybe they're showing us kind of why, you know, with the throne being safe for 60 years, the Game of Houses or Game of Thrones, Game of Houses is Wheel of Time. Game of Thrones is only like, it's like amateur hour. You know what I mean? And by the time Baratheons take over, the houses have had 200 years of politicking and playing around, and to where by then, I mean, there's like, it's an art, you know, and right now it's not.
Well, you don't have to be good at politics when you're the only people with the weapons of mass destruction. At the end of the day, we got all the dragons. So, like, I don't need to be good at politicking to be in charge. That's all it comes down to at the end of the day. One thing that we went over that happened quickly in the episode that I noticed I liked is now at the small council meeting when Rhaenyra's sitting at the table. She's not the cupbearer anymore.
Which I don't think she even spoke at the table, but I did see her sitting there. Maybe, unless I forgot something. Like I said, you see her sitting there on a zoomed out scene, and that scene didn't even really go very far, but I like that. Again, it's more subtle. Things are more subtle. I feel like in the first episode, they would have zoomed in on her 3 times or something to let you know she was sitting at the table. Now they're letting you like kind of just let the world build itself a little more, which I appreciate.
And so the last thing in the episode that I'm curious about really is, where does Daemon go from here? because Viserys is rightly very angry at him. He didn't even really deny it the way he should have. Like, he was just like, he also was like, oh, you think I did it? Well, then whatever. It doesn't matter.
So again, confusing. Like, he very, again, realistic. And then he went right back to sleep on the floor. Like, that's a realistic drunk uncle who doesn't know what's going on. You know what I mean? He had no plan. And if he did, it didn't go like he thought. He, changed his mind at the end there. Like, I mean, I feel like he was realistic in that episode, whereas, like, and again, you would think that he'd defend himself, but I mean, he didn't see any reason to. He knows the king's weak. He knows the king's not going to kill him right then and there, and he knows he's not going to believe him, and if he does, it's not going to make a difference. Like, he just literally just like, whatever, go, like, lay down, end this hangover, and
like, he's my favorite character so far. And I like the choice to give him a haircut. He looks better with the haircut than he did in the first wig.
Yeah, no, he was a little Fabio with that hair.
He looks like a real person now. Like a person you might see in the real world. But like I said, I think we can wrap up the discussions on it. See episode 4. I like the episode. I like that it's giving us some more story. Game of Thrones is really big on the calm before the storm. So I would imagine we might get another calmer episode for season 5, and then maybe things ramp up in the back half of the season. I don't expect that Viserys will make it all the way through season 1, because if the king doesn't die, there can be no politicking for the throne. So I'm curious as to how long they keep him around for, and just to see where this goes. We got things with Christian Cole are going to get more dramatic, because I don't think that he's going to be happy with the way things go with the princess getting married now. And I'm excited to see where they take it from here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think, I don't know, you were saying the next one might be the calm too. I feel like this was a little bit of the calm. And so I was expecting to see a little bit more in the next episode. And I feel like it'd be very Game of Thrones of them to jump ahead. I know there's 10 episodes and this will be 5. So I feel like to start an episode early with a little bit of action with the king, maybe not dying, but the whole, like, that whole ball starting to roll. And I think people starting to, I don't want to say choose sides, but I'm hoping there's a little more action in the next one as far as some permanent allegiances and all that good stuff. It seems like this was a little bit of a calm for me again after the 4th or the 3rd episode, kind of pick things up. So, but yeah, overall, so good. Definitely enjoyed that episode.
And you said choose sides. One thing I've heard is that, like, people have clearly chosen their sides before the king even dies, but he just doesn't even realize it, because by that point he's already pretty ineffectual. But, like, he's not even realizing that, like, what's going to happen after he dies, the writing's on the wall, and he doesn't even pick up on it. But that's in the source material. I don't know if they'll actually do it exactly like that. Like I said, I don't know the source material on this story that well. I just know how it jumps off, but the details after that, I didn't really get into. All right. Well, if you made it to the end, thanks for sticking around. If you like the conversation, like I said, like, comment, and subscribe for our other videos on the other shows that we're watching. And we will see you on the next one.
All right.